Hey, welcome to your weekly power guide. Simone Says, the very first episode being premiered under a Mercury station and a crazy new moon in Aries conjunct Uranus. I have spent the entire morning trying to figure out how to get this green screen with really cool planets in the background. And I came so close, but it was jumping around like crazy. Anyway, please imagine that there is a really cool planetary scenario around me as we're speaking. And hopefully by the next episode next week, I will actually figure out how to make that happen. But boy, I tell you what, recording this under these crazy energies has been interesting, and I'm sure that you've been experiencing these energies as well. It's, Uranus is all about breakdown and breakthrough. It's a really kind of high energy, but very ungrounded type of frequency. And the new moon was, well, you're going to be hearing this either late Sunday or early Monday. So the new moon actually just happened, and we're still very much in the vibration of that. And it's very destabilizing. It's a little chaotic. I've been hearing from a lot of my clients and friends about what all has been happening in this last week for them. And you throw the retrograde of Mercury in on top of that, and there have been a lot of communication issues, anger, frustration, and yet also this sense of things that have been building for years are finally getting set to pop. Right? I've been threatening to do a show like this for years, and here I am finally doing it under this new moon. But we're going to actually take a look at the week ahead, which is colored by this new moon energy and the fact of Mercury going direct, but also there are many other very intense factors, 2 outer planets going retrograde, and so let's get the PowerPoint up here and share the screen and tell you about the new week. Okay, prepare for liftoff, right? It is definitely a time of new beginnings. We are now in the waxing moon cycle through April 28th, which is the full moon. And every month, the waxing cycle lasts between the new moon and the full moon. And this is the time in which things are growing, whether it be plants or plans or, it's like a time of planting seeds and growing them. And oftentimes you will see results from whatever's happening or being planted at the new moon by the full moon 2 weeks later. So because Uranus is such a strong player at this new moon, these results can be rather surprising. So I do recommend staying very open and keeping plans kind of loose. And, just listening for what spirit wants. So Mercury, as I said, is now direct. However, it's in its storm phase. And the storm phase is the time about a week prior to when it goes retrograde and then a week after it goes direct. It's basically sitting there, and any planet that is sitting still can wreak havoc because it is more intensified than usual. So nonetheless, it is direct, and hidden information can be coming to light. It's super important to pace yourself. We have a lot of Aries energy happening right now, which wants to conquer the world and do it now. So, impulsivity, anger, be careful when you're communicating with people that you don't, overdo it. So, summing up the week, goats in space, anything can happen. And basically, we want to stay very grounded. We want to go and be in nature as much as possible. Among other things, for the week ahead, the sun will be moving into Taurus later this week. We'll talk about that in a minute. And that will hopefully help to bring our feet onto the ground. But in the meanwhile, this is a very high frequency energy that we're in, and you don't want to whip yourself into a frenzy. Take calculated risks because it is a new moon, which is a time to be taking risks, especially with Aries involved. However, also don't be overly impulsive in what decisions you're making. So as I mentioned, 2 outer planets are going retrograde this week. One is Saturn. Saturn turns backward on Tuesday. Whenever planets go retrograde, it means it's like taking the energy of the planet inward. Yes, there's a backward theme to it as well, as in going back to the past to reclaim things. In the case of Saturn, it's your inner authority. Pluto, which goes retrograde on Sunday, is about power. So we're tapping our inner emotional power, and we are, in both cases, these planets are retrograde for a number of months, 5-6 months, and they're both retrograde in Capricorn, which is all about old systems, old habits. So it's about reassessing the past, and this is for our personal lives as well as in the public eye. We may see a lot of things seeming to go backward, but just remember that the chaos that can happen when planets retrograde in Capricorn is actually for the best in terms of waking people up, shaking them up, and getting us ready to move forward in a new direction. So anyway, let's do a month, or rather a day-by-day forecast for the week ahead. And of all the days, Monday is probably the calmest, potentially. No guarantees, but because the moon's in Taurus, it trines Saturn. It's good for if you have to buy or sell this week or do financial transactions. Monday is definitely your best day in which to do so. Taurus rules money. It's usually more of a calm pace. And so use Monday to get organized and to get, any financial matters handled. Okay, now we have some big news. Actually, 2 major things happening on Tuesday. One is Chiron, known as the Wounded Healer, the mythical centaur, enters Aries for the first time since the period of 1968 to 1977. And that is a very major shift. Chiron's been in Pisces and for the last 9 years or so, 8 or 9 years. And Pisces is more about feelings, and it's about healing issues around victimhood and confusion. And Aries is the warrior. So it's the peaceful warrior, as I like to put it. That's what we're all challenged to do over this next 8 or 9 year period, is to heal any wounds around self-assertion and fear of becoming more of an activist, because activism is definitely going to be needed in this period ahead. And then Tuesday evening, Saturn turns retrograde, and we may indeed need to halt and reassess our position or our trajectory in some area of life. And when I do the sign-by-sign forecast toward the end of this episode, I'll give you an idea of what area of your life you may need to do this in. But for all of us, it's about shoring up our foundation, anchoring ourselves. And on that same day, Venus trines Pluto, which adds emotional intensity and conviction to the day. On Wednesday, we have a little bit of a wild and crazy time. Remember these guys from Saturday Night Live back in the day? I thought they were so hilarious. Anyway, what happens is the sun will exactly conjunct Uranus, bringing to fruition whatever was going on at the new moon on Sunday, because the energy of the new moon was within a few degrees of Uranus. It's just that the sun doesn't make the exact conjunction till Wednesday. So the energies that were stirring over the weekend may become more clear, or you may feel like you're finally ready to make a decision or move forward with something that you were really debating about over the weekend on Wednesday. And it's a Gemini moon that day. That keeps us flexible. That's good for ideas coming through. But we do want to take care with driving, operating heavy machinery and making impulsive decisions. Thursday evening, first we have Gemini moon throughout the day. And in the morning, it squares dreamy Neptune. So Thursday morning may be a little bit unfocused and unclear, but maybe a little bit, hard to get out of bed. I wouldn't make any important decisions or financial, purchases or anything in the morning. But in the evening, once the sun enters Taurus, where it will be for about 30 days, it will be a time to get our financial picture in order. And also, to really make the most of the sun in Taurus, we need to maximize our time in nature and literally smell the roses. On Friday and Saturday this week, we are deepening bonds with others because the moon is in Cancer, favoring close connections, family connections, love matters, and anything to do with home. So beautify and clean your home on those days. Honor your feelings. With Cancer moon, it's always a more emotional, sensitive time of the week or the month in this case. So be kind to people, be sensitive to other people's feelings on those days. And then on Sunday, Pluto goes retrograde. You may or may not feel that. Some people are more sensitive to the comings and goings of the planets than others, but oftentimes when an outer planet goes backward or forward, the themes of that planet will occupy the day or be in the headlines. And Pluto is about power. So because the moon will be in Leo, adding a bit of spice and fire, that is a day in which to, be very creative, and it happens to be Earth Day. So speak out for nature. With Leo moon, it's what does your heart desire and what are you passionate about? And what within you is something that really, really, that is most important. And of course, our Earth is greatly imperiled right now. So whether you go to an Earth Day event or whatever you do on that day, do it with the intention of honoring our mother. In my book, Astro Feng Shui, some of you may have this book, I correlated the new moons of each month of the year to different guas of the Bagua map. And this new moon, the one that we just had that's still coloring this week ahead, was in Aries, which is the career area around the front porch of your home, both inside and outside. So if you want to boost your career, your calling in life, your physical well-being, which it also relates to the ascendant, which is the physical body, then focus on your front porch right now area, on both the inner and outer part of that section of your home. Get those cobwebs out of there. Add red enhancements. Paint your door red if you really get inspired, or at least tie a red ribbon around the doorknob. This is my new, it's not that new now, about a month or so ago, I bought this welcome mat. And I actually, the welcome mats are wonderful new enhancements to get. And in fact, you need to replace them periodically because they get very scruffy and ugly looking if you don't. But luckily, they're pretty inexpensive. This one was $10. And I actually colored it in with glitter glue, since I'm the glitter glue queen. So you can beautify your welcome mat if you want to, but you want to make sure it's thick, substantial, and has some dark and rich colors in it. Now, because both Saturn and Pluto are going retrograde, I think it's perhaps more important to honor Saturn going retrograde in a personal ritual this week. But if you'd rather honor Pluto, like if you're a Scorpio, for instance, or have Scorpio rising, you might want to choose to honor Pluto instead. But I've geared this toward Saturn. Saturn is about mastery. And so the first thing to do is to decide what area of your life most either needs mastery or where you crave to master a certain area of your life. And then you want to do a little ritual in which you ideally sit outside, put your feet on the ground, pull up the energy from the earth through the bottoms of your feet, breathe it in, and then breathe out any tension. You do that at least 3 times. And then you tune in on the energies of Saturn. Saturn's very strong right now, by the way, even though it's going retrograde. It's because it's in its own sign of Capricorn. And actually, while planets are retrograde, they take on even stronger energy. And so the energy of mastery is actually, if you do the inner work, it's actually more available now than it is otherwise when Saturn's direct. Who knew? So that's something you can do this week if you like. All right, now let's look at a sign-by-sign guide for the week. For Aries sun or ascendant, well, first of all, this was the new moon in your sign. Your birthday may be happening sometime around. If your birthday's happening either last week or this week, boy, oh boy, have you got a year ahead awaiting you of major change. But no matter whether your birthday is nearby or not, it's a time to improve your image and present yourself in an exciting new way. Somehow that might mean embarking on a fitness regimen, getting a new haircut, redoing your website. It's about becoming more professional, asserting your true self, and becoming the authority figure in your career. And that relates to the fact that Saturn is actually going retrograde in your 10th house of career and reputation. So, stop deferring if you're doing so to some outside authority figure, whether it's your boss or a parent or whoever, and become the authority figure for yourself. Taurus, sun or ascendant, your focus right now is on your spiritual life. So pay attention to sudden intuitions or electrifying ideas. The new moon was in your 12th house, which is the area of spiritual matters and the subconscious mind. And you want to make sure that you really rest and rejuvenate before next month's big changes. And the next month changes have to do with the fact that Uranus is moving into Taurus. And that'll be mid-May. We'll talk about that more in a future episode, but that will spell big changes for you. And of course, your birthday time may well coincide with that. And then returning to a course of study or field of interest from the past. That relates to Saturn going retrograde in your ninth house, the area of education, the higher mind, publishing, anything to do with getting the word out to the people or educating your own self. Gemini Sun or Ascendant, it's time to boost your social life. So this week you want to join a meetup group perhaps, or attend an unusual event and meet up with people who are kind of maybe different for you than you tend to associate with. So it's a good time to network or join a unique team to achieve a goal. And that's because the new moon was in your 11th house of friends, goals, and community. Saturn went retrograde in your 8th house, the area of taxes and debts and shared finances and secrets and sexuality and all kinds of, it's a real Pandora's box, the 8th house. So you may be feeling, like there's some work for you to do in the area of trust or of, intimacy, especially in the week ahead, but really for the whole month. Cancer Sun or Ascendant, time to jazz up your career. The new moon was in your 10th house of career, and it's time, therefore, to try something new or even radical to get ahead. I'm a Cancer, and here I am doing my first weekly show with the new moon in my solar 10th house. And then seeking publicity, getting recognition, see and be seen is also very much part of this, which some Cancers are not really in love with the spotlight, and getting out there is a little scary, but this is what the energies are about for you right now. Saturn is going retrograde in your 7th house of partnerships. So going back to basics, getting back to what works, figuring out what works, going back and solving things that have been sitting on a shelf that you haven't wanted to deal with related to either a partnership or the lack of a partnership, as in dealing with inner issues that you may have standing in your way of being in a relationship. Leo Sun or Ascendant, it's time to find your higher calling. So that's the new moon in your 9th house. Pay attention to a sudden bolt out of the blue that may come through, especially if you're out in nature. In fact, spend extra time in nature this week, this month. Plan a trip, sign up for an exciting course or class. Reorganize your desk and complete your work. And that's because Saturn is going retrograde in your 6th house, which is your day-to-day work, your and also your health. So going back to a health regimen that maybe you have not really been, following like you should or would like to, is definitely part of this next 5-month period with Saturn being retrograde. Virgo Sun or Ascendant, solve old problems. This is the new moon conjunct wild Uranus in your 8th house. This is time to take a radical new approach to old issues, to make a major purchase or pay down debt if indeed, that is up for you. With Saturn going retrograde in your 5th house, the area of creativity and romance, it's time to handle old issues from the past or go back to a creative project that you let slide, or think about really reworking a hobby and getting more serious about it. That's another thing with Saturn going retrograde. It's like, whatever house that's happening in for you, it's time to get serious about matters of that house. Libra Sun or Ascendant, time to spice up relationships. And the new moon was in your 7th house. So it's partnering up to achieve a progressive goal or next step, progressive being a Uranian word, and doing something to reinvigorate an existing partnership or to find new romance. Saturn is retrograding in your 4th house, the area of the home and family. So maybe it's time to get serious about spring cleaning or remodeling or handling family issues that have been plaguing you for some time. Scorpio sun or ascendant, overhaul your routine. Quit that job you hate, or at least speak your truth to others on the job. Scorpio types often tend to withhold their true feelings. There's a kind of secretiveness or not wanting to fully reveal yourself. But the new moon conjunct Uranus is in your 6th house, and that's work. That's also all about service and health. So you want to definitely get those areas of life in gear and moving forward. And Saturn turns retrograde in your 3rd house of thinking and speaking. And so turning things around related to negative thinking is definitely called for at the present time. Really observe what you're thinking, what you're saying, both to yourself and to others, and work on making it more positive. Sagittarius sun or ascendant, let your brilliance shine. The new moon is in your 5th house, your area of creativity, romance, and fun, and kids. So it would be a good time to debut an unusual or exciting creative project, even possibly to start a new romance, and at least to meet fun new people and go to unusual or wild and crazy events to meet new folks. Saturn is retrograding in your 2nd house of money, so you want to reassess your finances, get a plan together to get out of debt perhaps, or to make more money, or whatever it is, to believe in yourself more, to get more organized, more professional, whatever it is you need to do over the next 5 months to really catapult yourself into a whole new category of professionalism. Capricorn sun or ascendant, get your house in order. The new moon is in your 4th house. That's the area of your literal home, but also family matters. And so maybe it's time now to redecorate in some kind of very colorful way, or invite unusual people over, have a party, invite people you wouldn't ordinarily have over. Also declare your independence from old family patterns or family members who really, perhaps don't even belong in your life anymore. That's Uranus. It's about asserting your own autonomy. And then Saturn is going retrograde in your 1st house of the personal self. Saturn is in Capricorn now, and going retrograde, it merely intensifies the need to claim your own authority and to be sure that the direction that you're headed in is really right for you. Aquarius sun or ascendant, put your thinking cap on. The new moon is in your 3rd house, and that rules the office or your immediate environment. It's thinking, it's everything to do with ideas. So with Uranus involved in that new moon, you may be having all kinds of crazy and brilliant ideas coming through right now, and really pay attention to them, write them down, and proceed with the ones that really feel right to you. Saturn is retrograde, however, and that means that you want to get to the root of any fearful thinking and release it. Pisces sun or ascendant, show me the money. That means the new moon is in your second house of finances. So using new technology, that's Uranus, to boost a money-making project would be appropriate. Selling things you no longer need to free up cash. Those are just a few suggestions of what you could get going at this new moon in your financial sector. And then Saturn going retrograde in your 11th house is about reassessing your friends and groups and what level of involvement that you have with them, and also your commitment or lack of commitment. And if you really aren't committed, then it's time to get out. All right, that's it. How did you like my first episode? Please let me know. Email me and offer me any suggestions or support for this weekly show. The first 2 episodes are going to be free, and after that, it will be $7.99 a month. So with these 2 free ones, please, I invite you to share the episodes far and wide, post to your Facebook page or wherever you like to share on social media, and let people know about what I'm doing. All right, have a heavenly day.